What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the next episode of Sports Talk with Hawk. I am Hawk, and as always, welcome in. It is a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday morning. So, as of today, we have Mike Vrabel to the Patriots, which many of us knew was a very high possibility. Ben Johnson took the Chicago Bear job, which I find really interesting. And here we'll get into the reasons why here in a little bit. But Ben Johnson takes the Chicago Bear job. Aaron Glenn is going to be the next head coach of a team he formerly played for in the New York Jets. So that leaves the Raiders, the Cowboys, Jaguars, and Saints. So we're just going to chat for a little bit on the head coaching hires thus far. Trent Baalke also got relieved as GM after Liam Cohen pulled out of the running for the Jacksonville Jaguar job. So Trent Baalke is out, which, by the way, was said to be a huge deterrent for many, many coaches, including experienced ones. So I expect the next head coach. I swear. Oh my gosh. Please. This could be bad for the Indianapolis Colts and partially the Houston Texans too. The Tennessee Titans are what they are, whatever. But the Jacksonville Jaguars could very easily bring in Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. Think about this. Robert Saleh has interviewed for this position. Liam Cohen pulled his name out of the running. Trent Baalke was supposedly a huge issue for many potential coaches. And, analysts had said that Baalke is a big problem. So Baalke is now out. The GM spot is open, which means the head coach that comes in, my guess is, will be able to bring in a GM that they work with. And Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas built a really good team for Aaron Glenn to take over. I think Robert Saleh will not have. Robert Saleh knows potentially where he messed up. I think there's opportunities for guys like Josh McCown, Brian Griese, Thaddeus Lewis. I've said these names over and over. Look for them to get the offensive coordinator looks from coaches. Jacksonville is a very intriguing one to me because I think Joe Douglas, even Ron Carthon, I didn't think Carthon did bad in Tennessee. He's not the one that made the Antonio Brown trade. I don't think Carthon did bad in Tennessee. So Ron Carthon and Brian Flores opportunity. Like there's options for Jacksonville now getting rid of Trent Baalke. And yes, I do believe that team is stacked with dudes. They can go straight to winning 10 games next year, no questions asked. Does it depend somewhat on health? Absolutely. ETN, constantly injured. Evan Ingram, constantly injured. Christian Kirk needs to be freaking traded, cut, whatever. Needs to get out. Brian Thomas is the number one. You need to find your number two. Gabe Davis is solid. Gabe Davis can be a number two. He can. But then you need to draft a guy to be able to be your number three. I like the Jacksonville Jaguar team, the roster. Everything is set. I've actually been working. So the draft picks are not technically out yet. Last year, I guess, yeah, it was. Last year, wow. Last year, if you remember, I did the 2 or 3 part podcast of the draft capital that each team had. Right now, all the picks are not out because they wait for the compensatory picks to go in. So we only know the number of picks they currently have, which is what I'll give, hopefully, in my screenshot series that will begin next week because I want it to be done before the league year kicks off. So we will have our each individual team screenshot. Hopefully we have 2 more head coaches hired by the end of this week. Then I can wait to do those 2 teams later on. But let's talk about we're going to talk about it again when we do the screenshot, but we got to talk about it. Mike Vrabel, head coach of the New England Patriots, does bring in a defensive coordinator, Williams, who was with them in Tennessee, was with Detroit last year, and then also brings in Josh McDaniels, which for me, a guy who owns Drake May in multiple leagues, is freaking fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Drake May is going to have, remember, Josh McDaniels is the coordinator that made everybody believe Mac Jones could be a real NFL quarterback. Drake May didn't have that last year. Alex Van Pelt's not bad. Van Pelt did everything he could in his power. With no offensive line, really. The running game, Stevenson had fumbling issues. Gibson's a really solid number 2. It just a lot of shuffling. Mike Vrabel, my guess is, will draft his bell cow back. He wants a guy like Derrick Henry. He doesn't want running back by committee of everybody. So, with that being said, look for this offense to really jump up. I think they're going to make moves. They may move off of players like Jalen Polk. They may move Polk to a team like Jacksonville for a 6th round pick. Like, there are options here, and I like where the options are for the Patriots. Vrabel's filling out the staff. It's going to be a tough staff. It's going to be a staff that understands football the way that football is. Like, this is absolutely how you build a NFL staff in this day and age. 100%. No question. And right now, I would say the Patriots are absolutely out in front of everybody to this point. Now let's switch to the Bears. He's only been head coach for, a little over a day. Give Ben Johnson some time. We're still got to find out who he's going to fill out as his staff, defensive coordinator, if he's going to have an offensive coordinator, what he's going to do. Here's my thoughts, because you guys remember option 1 and option 2. Listen, I like Ben Johnson. And I hope he doesn't die in Chicago. I hope he doesn't die in Chicago. Because I do believe his potential with being an offensive coordinator is so great. I don't want him. He doesn't have McDaniel's attitude. Okay. I'm never going to, unless you really earn it, I'm not going to compare you to a Josh McDaniels when it comes to how you're going to be a head coach. My simple thought with Ben Johnson is, can he overcome the hierarchy that is there with Kevin Warren, an owner that doesn't have a lot of money? The team is not bankrupt. Ryan Poles is fine as a GM. He kind of strikes, he's a lot like Chris Ballard, but he makes more moves than Chris Ballard. Ballard, I've always said, is a B GM. Ryan Poles, I would say, is a B plus GM. So The team is not bankrupt as far as talent, but your fate is tied to Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has to improve underneath you, which I believe he will. Here's why. If he runs his offense in Chicago, builds that offensive line that's needed. DeAndre Swift, really good running back. Rashawn Johnson, very solid second back. You got DJ Moore, you got Rome Odunze, you got Cole Kmet, you got the players, Chicago. Get him an offensive line, and you can build an offense in this team with this team. Caleb Williams, any quarterback that has a run game that is strong will look great. If all they have to do is complete a couple passes, complete some easy throws. Jared Goff is not an A quarterback. He's a B quarterback. And you can win a Super Bowl with a B quarterback if you have an A offense. The Lions just ran out of defenders. You got to have a B defense. And because they had 19 on injured reserve, let's just be honest, injuries catch up to you in the playoffs more than the regular season. You can't fake it in the playoffs. So do I like the Ben Johnson hire for Chicago? Of course I like the Ben Johnson hire for Chicago. I would have gone McCarthy. I'm wondering where McCarthy goes now. I'm wondering if when Dallas denied McCarthy the opportunity to interview with Chicago, that Chicago just automatically switched back to Ben Johnson and said, we're not going to deal with it. That's a legit thing that could have happened. And now, if I'm Mickey Loomis in New Orleans, I am going after Mike McCarthy now. Jacksonville, I think they need a little bit more toughness. I like Saleh. I love Flores in that situation. Those are the two head coaches I think fit the Jacksonville mantra right now. Doug Peterson, offensive coach, it didn't work. They got too old. You got to go young, and you got to get young offensive coordinators in there. I think Robert Saleh, Brian Flores give you that opportunity. I really do. I really do. If I'm the Saints, I'm going after Mike McCarthy. If I'm the Raiders, let me throw this out at you. I've been thinking about what will happen, you know. Let me throw this at you. The Raiders don't have their future quarterback, I believe. Don't have their future quarterback. Aiden O'Connell at times has looked solid enough, and then at times has looked solidly bad enough. What if the Raiders bring in Cooper Rush? Now follow me on this. You're not necessarily going to compete with Kansas City, Denver, and the Chargers right now. But what if you bring in Cooper Rush and you go 7-10? You beat one, maybe even two division opponents. You go 2-4 in the division. You're playing tough. The offense looks better. Brock Bowers continues to ascend. Mike McCarthy brings in Cooper Rush. He knows the offense. It seems set that Kellen Moore is going to get the Dallas Cowboy head coaching job. Not going to lie, I don't know why, except for the fact Jerry loves ex-players. That is it. That's it. And he's hoping that Kellen Moore can somehow do to Dallas what Dan Quinn did to Washington. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. It's not about the offense right now. It's not about the defense right now. In Dallas, it's about the roster. So if McCarthy goes to the Raiders, where they're a little bit more open, they're going to bring in a GM. Honestly, if I was McCarthy, I'd be like, bring back Telesco. Like, what the crap are we doing here? Give me Tom Telesco again to be able to build this team. You failed with trying to get Vrabel, which was why you fired Telesco to begin with. Go, just go to the Raiders, take that job. Brady's calling a lot of the shots. It's going to get really interesting as people continue to call out the double standard that is with the amount of meddling he's able to do and all the access he has with Fox. It will eventually come back. It will catch fire. Don't worry. But if you're sitting there right now, I mean, Mike McCarthy, bring him in. The Saints and the Raiders make sense for Mike McCarthy. They really do. The Jaguars could bring him in. Could. I just don't know if that's the direction that organization needs to go, because I think Jacksonville just kind of is the tough one. Like, we're going to just beat you on just being tough. Their teams ran you over. They didn't throw it all over you. They ran you over defensively and offensively. I mean, for gosh sakes, Blake Bortles made the playoffs. Minshew Mania started down there, for goodness sakes. Jacksonville just needs a coach that can keep the toughness level where it needs to be, in a place where you got very little media pressure. It's easy to relax. So you need a coach that creates that pressure automatically. Doug Peterson went from Philadelphia to Jacksonville. He went from an absolute media nightmare to a cupcake. And he couldn't handle it. He couldn't keep people accountable, including himself. So as I look at the current landscape, we haven't really talked about Aaron Glenn. I'll get to the Jets here in a second. When we look at the current landscape, the remaining jobs, if I were to rank them in order right now, would be Jacksonville 1, the Saints, because of their organization. I understand the cap struggles. I get it. A lot of coaches are getting hired with cap struggles nowadays, or inheriting that in their first year. I don't think that's a reason to call the job a bad job. That organization is grounded. It is a very solid organization to go to be the head coach for, and I would absolutely take that job. So for me, it's Jacksonville, then the Saints, then the Raiders, more because I don't know how much of Brady's meddling is going to really be controlled. And Mark Davis keeps selling off more of the team. Who's your actual boss? Mark Davis owns most of the team still, but seriously, if Brady's calling the shots with this, and Seymour's got his hand on that, what the heck are we doing? It's becoming a melting pot, and it's going to be the joke. I'm sorry, Tom Brady is showing that no, he doesn't care what his name's attached to because it's already a joke. You fired the coach that everybody loved. You fired a GM after the first year because you were hoping to get Vrabel, your buddy, and let him hire his next GM. Whoops. Come on. Come on. I mean, jeez. What are we doing? What are we doing? So, here's where I believe everything is at right now. The Cowboys would be my fourth option because I don't, with Jerry Jones around, you're not going to win. I'm sorry. It may be harsh. With Jerry Jones around, you're not going to win. That's simple. So, with that being said, my options would be Jacksonville 1, New Orleans 2, Raiders 3rd, and the Dallas Cowboys would be my fourth option. So, let's talk about the Jets job. Let's talk about the Jets job. They got a former player. I know Rex Ryan really likes Aaron Glenn. So Rex Ryan, I know, absolutely put his thing behind this. I don't know how much Rex Ryan's being listened to by Woody. I'm assuming a lot. Rex Ryan is the last coach that won in New York. So I'm assuming his opinion's kind of being valued a little bit here. What I'm afraid of for Aaron Glenn, and this is a very simple, straightforward thing. What I'm worried about for Aaron Glenn is who's the GM now. You got rid of a really good one. I personally, I would bring in Tom Telesco. I would bring in Tom Telesco. Simple reason, I think he works with coaches. I really do. I think he works with coaches. As a GM, I need you to work with my head coach. Tom Telesco does that rather well. Now, if I'm him, do I want to take the Jet job? I don't know. I would. Joe Douglas had a very, Joe Douglas had a good term. So, would I take it? I would. Do I think that all the talking has kind of worried Woody Johnson about how everybody perceives the New York Jets? Yes, I do. All the stories that have come out, I believe, have made him feel very uncomfortable. So, to be brutally honest with you, I would take the job as the GM of the Jets. I would put my lot in with Aaron Glenn. I like Aaron Glenn. I like his passion. I know he's going to be a player's coach. So, I would absolutely do this. Absolutely. What do I like about Aaron Glenn? Simple. I think he's going to bring a Dan Campbell type of intensity. I'm not sure if he's going to call defensive plays his own or not. I think for a lot of ex-players now, you're looking and you're seeing them kind of learning from Dan Campbell that you can build your identity yourself bring in the staff to help you so that you can be a true team football coach. So what Aaron Glenn does, I'm not sure. If he calls plays, great. It's working for DeMeco Ryans in Houston. If he doesn't, okay. Either way, I think this is going to work out. I really thought Rex Ryan was the pick here because I thought you needed a culture guy. Aaron Glenn's a culture guy. He fits what I was saying. Aaron Glenn, to be part of success with fellow players. Don't forget, Deuce Staley was on the Lions staff too, as running backs coach. To be on a staff with ex-players, legitimately run by ex-players, I think helps. I think it helps him. Aaron Glenn is not a young buck. He's older. Old-ish, older. And I think he works. I really think the AFC East just got a lot tougher for the Buffalo Bills. Are they going to own it? Yes. They're still going to own the division. But even when the Colts were owning the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars were a team we couldn't get away from. We had how many close games against the Texans? The Titans we basically beat up. That's fine. But just because you own the division doesn't mean it's easy. It's been easy. It's been easy. Now, the Dolphins are screwed. I texted one of my buddies tonight, and I said, look, the Dolphins are toast. It's going to be like the 2010s again. The Dolphins are absolutely toast. They've already paid Tua. They're not going to have a defense ever again until his contract's up. It's going to be spent on offense. The Dolphins are toast. They will be fourth in that division for the next 5 years. But they got their quarterback. They still got Waddle. Tyreek Hill wants out. And not good for the Dolphins. Because McDaniel struggles. McDaniel absolutely struggles with toughness. So all in all, let's wrap this up. Ben Johnson of the Bears. Listen, I think as far as the Bears are concerned, when you're given a grade, A+ hiring. That's exactly fine. Johnson, we'll find out if he works with the Bears. The hire's A+. We'll see if he works. Vrabel, A++. The Patriots needed their guy. They got their guy. The staff's already filling out. Beautiful. The Jets, listen, they need a culture guy. I'm going to give them an A. I'm going to give them an A. So we'll see where the other four end up. I do believe you're going to now have probably 2 more fall before the end of the week. I don't think many are going to wait. Steve Spagnuolo is an interesting one. Joe Brady is another one. I think you'll have 2 stick around. But if you're going to hire Mike McCarthy, you're going to do it now. The Jets job closed. So, listen, I think the hirings have been good this offseason. I think they really help these teams. Whether the teams get better or not, you don't know. Not until we start playing games. But as far as the hirings, I like the moves. The moves look good. All right, guys, there it is. 30 minutes. Time to wrap her up. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and listening today. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Um, not gonna start the screenshot team series until next week. So we'll probably do some division previews for the conference championship game, and we'll talk about whatever football news comes into play. So you guys have an absolutely great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe and like the podcast. For Sports Talk with Hawk, I am Hawk, and I am out.